Hi, my name is Mark Baer, and my guest now with me is Eva Lothar, filmmaker. And let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about Street of Sardines. What year did you make this in?
I started to shoot in 1968, and it came out in 1970.
And
Finished it in 1970.
In 70, and what did you have? And you hadn't been to Monterey before this? And
Yes, I was living in Monterey. I had come through Monterey years before. And I came to live and work in Monterey in 1964. So actually, nearly 4 years before I began shooting the film.
Okay, so what I want to do first is I want to show a few pictures from the film, and then I want to talk about the film.
Okay.
If we may, what are we looking at here?
So here some fish is being unloaded at one of the wharf.
Okay.
At one of the piers. And the fish, of course, is not sardine, because there were no sardine left when I shot the film. That was one of the reasons I did. And I believe they were unloading squid.
Okay.
The whole crew is Sicilian, mainly, and as most of the fishermen in those days.
May we see another?
Surely. Okay, so this is actually a double exposure. It's an accident which happened in camera. I wanted to shoot the sunrise, or maybe it was a sunset, I'm not sure, but light is the same. And that was shot from under the Outrigger, which used to be a restaurant overlooking the bay on Cannery Row. And then the next shot was a shot of the street sign Cannery Row. So, and this is taken from up high, a scene where women are packing, but again, they are not packing sardine, they are packing squid. It was one of the rare times when the last cannery on Cannery Row was still functioning, and that was Hoofden's Cannery Row, which is Hoofden's cannery,
right,
which is way at the end of Cannery Row where the aquarium now stands. And in those days, every so often, and I was lucky that I heard they were going to pack, and I quick ran down the hill. I lived up the hill, and I was able to shoot several days, and also talk with the ladies and the people, the men who worked there.
Can we see another? Let's see what else we have here. Okay.
So this is one of the overpasses. Some have been kept. Their names have been changed, some of them. But it's taken from a traveling shot. I was sitting on top of a little pickup truck, and my friend was driving, and I had an old Bolex camera with a rewind, all mechanical. I had 16 feet. So she would drive, and when I was through with my 16 feet, I had to rewind. I would kick my heels in the windshield. She would back a little bit. I'd quickly rewind, and we'd do the rest of the traveling that way, the whole of Cannery Row.
Okay, and I think we have another.
Yes, well, that's, of course, something which no longer exists. This side was an empty lot, full of all kinds of things which had been thrown out of the old cannery. So it was full of undescribable, unnameable equipment, all rusted and piled up on what is now the beach, the very nice little park which is at the entrance, the Monterey entrance of Cannery Row. And then seeing, of course, some of the canneries and on the pilings further down.
So let's talk about the film now. So
okay.
I want to go through some of the impressions just so that the viewer will know. You're in the 60s. You're kind of at the end of the run of Cannery Row. It's very, I'd have to say it's kind of at the end of the era. You really cut the
yes.
last gasp.
It was even after the last gasp, I would say, because when I arrived in Monterey and started to work something entirely different and walked about Cannery Row, it was just barren, deserted. There was nothing, absolutely nothing. Just a fog and just noises and just colors and...
it was like looking at a ghost.
Yes, in a way, yes. It was a ghost street.
So what, again, you know, just as a filmmaker, as a fellow filmmaker, when I watch your thing, the imagery is very beautiful. The imagery is very stark. The imagery seems, I don't want to say pessimistic, because now that area has rebuilt itself. So you saw the last of something that has had a resurrection. So people can envision that, you know, people can envision a different future in their head, and obviously in this case a better future. But what I'm interested in is almost you more as a poet than as a filmmaker, because it's very much of a film poem. As striking as the imagery is the opposite of the narration, the starkness of the narration, the starkness of the music, and the sort of non-linear way you told the story, and again the elegance which you told the story, and that the writing of it was you know, quite stunning, and that's what really appealed to me. That's what I felt was unique and singular. I felt another filmmaker could have got the images, but the take on it, the mood, that was the writing, and it had a very, it seemed simpler than it was, and I know that it wasn't simple. Well,
actually, the writing came at the end, at the very end. I had no idea what I would write when I was even cutting the film and putting the images together and putting the various sounds. I mean, it was like writing, you know, cutting this film and putting the sounds. It was 16 mil, it was not, you know, video, it was really hands-on film, and having to cut and having to spend the time and putting things in order or out of order. And then the sound came with layers and layers and layers of various sounds, and then here and there voices saying things. And then much later, then came what I wrote, and I think it was an outcry of the heart when I wrote it, and I think you perceived that from what you just said, that it was something very emotional, and also sort of a discovery, what it meant for me, what that film meant beyond the images and the eerie situation and atmosphere. It was something else. What was the meaning of all that?
Yeah, and again, it was very, you didn't say what it meant. You let your viewer say what it meant, let your viewer take it away.
Right, yes.
You were trying to figure out what it meant. And that's what...
It was a mystery, you know. Yeah. It was something left of a period of prosperity when lots of people were employed, worked throughout, you know, 24 hours a day. There were the 3 shifts, there were many shifts, and the fishermen going in and out and coming in and out. And then suddenly, no more. And it was only after talking to some of the old fishermen and talking to the people who worked at the canneries that something dawned on me, that it's really, it didn't just happen. You know, something interfered with the natural course of events. The fish come and go and come and go and will come and will go, and suddenly they will not come and they will not go because they didn't come. And so nothing was said in those days, or it was just very timidly at the beginning of thinking environment and, you know, suggesting something was happening which ought to be preserved. And all of a sudden I thought, wow, you know, I'm the witness of something which, like a civilization gone up and will last forever, and then it goes and it's gone, it's forgotten.
I saw this, you know, as you see what's happened there happening all over America right now in factory towns, in small towns.
It's not just America.
Yeah, well,
it's everywhere. You know, we have been over optimistic in using and misusing natural resources, whatever it is, forests or land or iron ore or whatever resources, which some of them, like oil, could not be replenished. And we thought, well, it's going to be here forever and give us prosperity. And we are at the edge of something else. And this is really what dawned on me while making this film. It was like a small little example of a big, something in the big picture of the whole world, the planet.
It transcends a regional situation.
Yes, absolutely.
First of all, before I want to get some business done, you will be showing this film April 7th, 3 o'clock, Museum of Monterey. Be there, be square. And so people will have a chance to come in and see it. So again, that's April 7th, 3 o'clock. That's a Sunday afternoon. And so I want to get people into our theater to really see this. It's really quite beautiful. So where do you live now, and where do you?
I live in Paris.
Okay.
I came from Paris, read about Cannery Row, written by John Steinbeck, and I thought it was fictional until I came here and discovered it existed.
How often do you get back here?
Now I've been trying for the last years to come about once a year. And spend 3-4 weeks on the peninsula.
So this is still it's still in your blood here.
I just, you know, I mean, these were very significant years for me living on the Monterey Peninsula. And when I come back, it's like coming home. I mean, it has changed. You know, I don't find my bearings immediately, but I have good friends, and I just love it.
And the nature is still here.
The nature is beautiful, and I love the fog, and I love the sounds connected with.
So I just had Lauren List here, and again we're talking. His work goes from France to the Monterey Peninsula. Your work goes from France to the Monterey Peninsula. I mean, is there something that works together? I don't know.
You mean France and the Monterey Peninsula?
Yeah.
Well, the Monterey Peninsula, even though it has changed a lot since I've first known it, has kept, you know, some natural sites and wilderness, which you still find in some areas in France, not everywhere, because we are like everywhere invaded with concrete and freeways, and but we still have backcountry and lots of beautiful spots. So that may be a parallel with the Monterey Peninsula.
And what are you working on now?
Something entirely different, two things. I've been rebuilding for years an ancient house deep in the backcountry of France.
Oh, wow.
Where there are no freeways and no concrete. And that's, I've been working on that for about 12 years. And it was an entire ruin, and now it's a very wonderful house. That's one thing, and I started to write about my mother and my brother and my house. And here I've been co-writing with a friend a feature screenplay, which we both hope will see the light of day.
Yeah, well, that is the dream.
Indeed.
So who was, I should know, and I recognize the name, but that the dedication to the film was to?
Nicholas Lothar.
No, but that was...
Well, it was, yes, that was my late husband.
That was the dedication, but...
Yes, and then Geraldine Sharp. You're mentioning that name. Geraldine Sharp had been an assistant to Ansel Adams. I met her at Ansel Adams at one dinner. And Geraldine was a photographer. She was teaching at MPC at the time and taking her students to Cannery Row. And so while discussing photography, I had a Super 8 camera, and she said, you know, maybe we can, and I thought, it has to be something more serious. For some reason, I thought it would be something important to do. So I borrowed this famous Bolex with a spring and a rewind, 16 mil. And that's how. And she then had to leave the area, so I did it all by myself with my dog.
So you just kind of stumbled into this?
In a way, yes. Yes, first I thought of writing about Cannery Row, and then it became a film.
Mm-hmm. So what was your principal discipline? Would you say you call yourself a filmmaker, a writer, a photographer, a poet?
I never thought of myself as a poet, you know, but I did a lot of photography before, and I became a filmmaker thanks to this film.
Okay.
That's what the film made me a filmmaker, actually.
So anyway, I wanted to thank you very much for being here today. And again, April 7th, 3 o'clock, Museum of Monterey in our theater.
With pleasure.